Hi, welcome to the Shepherd's Rest Doc Talk. This is episode 76A.
I'm Cameron, this is Julie.
Yes.
This week's Torah Portion, we find ourselves rolling through Genesis quickly. We're at Genesis 41 to 44:17. We're still on Joseph. Pretty much that takes us to the end of this Genesis, the book of Genesis. But we have a lot of, again, overreaching patterns that we're going to kind of look at because that seems to be our theme for the year.
It is.
It is.
It really does.
It is.
Huh? Yeah.
There are a few things that I will throw out there as just little nuggets. One is I realized this year that from the point of Joseph being, I guess, kicked out from his family, and to the point of him now being put into the role that he's supposed to be, all right, it's 13 years. Well, we knew that. But he gets a new name by Pharaoh at this 13 years.
Right.
Well, if we look back to Abraham, his grandfather, or great-grandfather, right? He had a 13-year period also from when Ishmael's born to when he gets his new name. Yeah, it's 13 years. And I thought, isn't that interesting? Because both of them get a new name after a period of time that they might have felt forgotten.
Right. Oh, right.
And then they get this new name. And once they do, they go into the fullness of what their purpose is. You know?
Okay, very good. Yeah. What about Jacob? Did Jacob get a new name after, Israel? I just know his name was changed.
Ooh, that's a good point.
So I'm wondering if he
what
got
would
a
have
new
been?
name.
Yeah, we know it was 22 years he was out of the 20 years he was out of the land.
Mm-hmm. His marriage.
So if you go back,
I don't know.
Oh no! If you go back 13 years from that would have been when he got married.
Right. Yeah.
That's interesting because then it'd been from when he got married, 13 years. Oh, that is interesting.
He got his name changed to Israel.
Yeah. So seriously. So that makes me wonder: did his purpose begin
when he got married?
Well. No, it would have been almost a sense of abandonment, or that kind of limbo of, but not quite there. But once he went back into the land, then he went into now all this has been for this moment on.
Right.
So so we would. That's a very interesting.
Very good.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So that should be a part of hope for us, realizing that there's this time that our forefathers, right, went through of just kind of doing their thing. Not necessarily feeling like they're inspired, any of that. I think that today we have that high.
They don't have a clear purpose,
right? But
until
every single thing that's happened put them where they needed to be. So when it was time to have the purpose, they were there.
They were there,
and that's what happens with Joseph. See, this week we begin where Pharaoh calls him. Remember, it's been 2 years. So we talked about the second day and then the third day. Right. Second day we heal you, third day you're raised. And we see this where after 2 years he's called up and he's given these dreams. Pharaoh has a dream and he gives them to Joseph to reveal to him what it means, which Joseph is like, I can't do that, only God can. However, Rabbi Foreman talks about the way the Lord speaks to us. How many times we've had the Holy Spirit has said things to us.
Right.
I don't hear an audible voice.
Right.
But you're like, I don't know. I need to go look that up. You look it up, and there's a scripture that tells you this. Or you see something, you're like, well, I don't know. But suddenly you have a memory from something in third grade.
Right.
And you're like, oh, well, that must help me define it, right?
Right.
Well, he talks about this same premise working for Joseph. When Joseph is hearing this dream, he's able to stop and look back at his life and suddenly realize how the events of his life have brought him to understand this dream. We actually see an undoing of what's been done. This week we're in 41, 13, and 14. In 14, it talks about how Pharaoh went and sent for Joseph, and they hurried, and they had him brought out of the pit. Well, if you remember, he is in prison, but he's in the low security, minimum security. Yeah, it's the high end prison life. All right, he's not in a dungeon strapped to the wall. dashing his marks into the wall to see how many days he's been there.
Right.
So it's a weird term to say that he's been brought out of the pit. But what they were saying, the sages and Rabbi Foreman saying, is if you look at that and you start going back to 37 and looking at everything being undone that was done to him. He's brought out of the pit. Well, the brothers put him in the pit. He's given a coat.
Yes.
Well, they stole the coat.
Right.
He was sent by the Father.
It's like measure for measure.
Yes, he was sent by the Father. Pharaoh's sending him out, okay? Oh, there were the dreams. He had the dreams. Pharaoh has the dreams. So as Pharaoh's telling him the dreams, he's sitting there and thinking, wait a minute.
This is happening exactly
this is happening backwards.
Yeah.
Exactly. Wait. But because those things happened, he's able to now go, well, my dream, it was given twice, which meant it was a sure deal.
Mm-hmm.
Pharaoh's dream is given twice because it's a sure deal.
Right.
I just love how we see that understanding,
Yes.
and he's able to connect all that. And the Lord used that, his past experiences.
Used his experiences. So, hello.
Exactly.
Isn't that how it works?
Yes. And then that made me start thinking, okay, well, wait a minute. Those dreams, we know that we have to understand the end from the beginning.
Right.
So, are those dreams still relevant? I would say yes, but on a bigger scale.
Worldwide,
Worldwide.
maybe?
Yes, absolutely.
Since we're scattered all over the world?
Yes, yes. And again, things that have happened in our lives, he's going to reverse to allow us to see. I mean, Joel talks about that with the caterpillars and the bugs and everything eat.
Right.
It's
right.
restored back.
Mm-hmm.
We have Jacob, who's missing for 22 years from Isaac's life. And then we have Joseph, who's missing from 22 years from Jacob's life.
Oh, yeah.
But it's restored. Joseph himself gets to be with Jacob for 17 years before he's lost. When Jacob returns, Joseph and Jacob are together for 17 more years.
Oh, wow.
You see this thing being shadowed. Well, I would suggest that we're going to have that same bookends. Yeah. And they're the same type. We're going to have that. Mm-hmm. We're going to have, when you stop and you look at Daniel 3 and Revelation 13, here's the beast, right? Mm-hmm. Here's the leper, the bear, the things that happen
all
in
four
this.
Of them
yeah, these four that happen in Daniel happen opposite in Revelation. Right. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing we have here. They're acting the opposite of each other because it's fulfilling backwards so that it can be understood because we had the past to understand the future.
So along that theory of them happening backwards, we said a few weeks ago that Babylon will be the last one to overtake us. So Babylon was the first, so Babylon will be the last.
Yes. I believe that. I absolutely believe that. And when I stopped and really started looking at the measure for measure idea and looking at how the dream idea works, I see revelation. I see that the people, the Lord's people, are going to be preserved. Okay, let's look at what happened from this dream. We have, famine's coming. And it's going to be 7 years of good and 7 years of bad, right?
Right.
Famine's coming, but this dream was told to who? To Pharaoh, the world.
The world.
Not to Joseph. Who was, I would say in this, the loved
spiritual
one, the son.
Israel.
Yeah, not told.
Right.
But the world, because see, Joseph's already going to be preserved. He's already been preserved.
Yeah.
But
some people would say he hasn't been, but he really
it's
about
has
perspective.
Been. That's right. Yes, it is
He's
perspective.
Been preserved.
So the worlds get this information, don't know what to do with it. So who do they go to? They go to Joseph. They go to Messiah. The world's going to get this information. They already have it in Revelation. They already have it in Scripture. They're going to hit a point of, wait, I don't understand. How does this pertain to me?
Right.
You're saying it pertains to me? And they're going to go to Messiah to say, I need direction. And then the Lord is going to set up how they will be preserved. And those who come to Messiah will be preserved through that time. Those who don't are going to be the ones who just decided, I can handle this on my own.
Right.
And they'll be destroyed. And we know that from Revelation. They will be destroyed. Everything we saw Joseph doing, the preserving of the food, and then later we see where he's basically selling it back to those who didn't get ready.
Right.
Which then made me think of the maidens.
Maidens, right.
go buy your own.
Yeah, the 10 virgins
you didn't
she's
prepare.
talking about.
Right, the 10 virgins. You didn't prepare. Go buy your own. Because here, they're selling it. Look, this is Joseph, a type of Christ, selling it.
Yeah.
Because you didn't prepare.
Right.
Yet, he did not sell it to his family. When Jacob and his brothers came
and got it freely.
Right. They freely ate of it. They freely learned. They didn't have to do they came in under the guidance of Joseph. They didn't have to come in through Pharaoh.
Right.
I guess I'd say.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also see here where you have Joseph doing the work of Pharaoh. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in Messiah doing the work of the Father.
Yes.
And Joseph is preserving everything so then he could sell it, because then what happens? Those people have to give over everything, and then it all becomes Pharaoh's. Well, isn't that what Messiah does? Isn't everything literally going to become the Father's? I mean, it's going to all be under
his.
Yeah, it's going to be under Messiah's. I mean, there's a lot of parallels. One thing that I find this week's Torah portion is that we see multiple facets. I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a best friend, I'm a wife, I have all these jobs. I can work with all those jobs at the same time.
Because you're good at multitasking.
That's questionable. But the point is that I'm not having, it's not split like there's one person, there's, it functions that way. We see that with Joseph, and we see that with Judah this week, because Judah is a type of foreshadow of Christ. When he says, look, I'll give myself for them.
Right.
Look, if something happens to Benjamin, I will give myself for him. Messiah did that for us on earth. I see that as again, Judah's kind of the earthly representation, and Joseph is the heavenly. Right. Because who does Judah go to? Judah goes to Joseph.
Right.
He's the one that talks, Joseph's the one kind of controlling everything. He's the one that judges them. Well, Messiah does that too.
Right.
So I kind of see Messiah. It makes me think of an old Shakespeare play, because you would have maybe one actor who had 4 or 5 different roles.
Right, yeah.
And there were some plays by all one person. They still have those today, right?
Or
One
if you
man
watch
show.
any of the Wayne's brother movies.
Okay. One man show, okay? So we see this where here's what happens. When we're like, well, we are going to take this one character and he's going to be Messiah all the way through. No, it's aspects of each character that represent Messiah that then goes into the one person Messiah, and that's what makes him Messiah. Right. But everyone of the characters in our story have little pieces, because we have Benjamin.
That way, when he does show up, it's like, see? This one, like this one, like this one, like this one, like this one. And there'll be no question that he was here 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And then here again.
Absolutely. And then think about this. If everyone has that role, coming together is what makes all of Israel.
Right, yes.
And if all of Israel is the body of Messiah, then they have to all work together.
Right.
To show and reflect who he is.
Right, yeah.
So you've got to have those
sense.
Pieces. Yeah. And something else we saw this week is that it's Benjamin that brings all the brothers to Joseph.
Yes.
Benjamin's believed to be the last
generation. He's the last child born.
Right.
Last child born.
The one in the land.
Right.
And he's the one that brings them all to recognize. Because remember, when he gets caught with the cup, the servant says, we'll take him. I'll just take him back. He's just going to be the servant, right?
Yeah.
The slave. And all the brothers are like, oh, no. You can't do that. We have to go with him. And that's what draws them. Because they could have said, okay, fine. Every man was responsible for their own actions. See, that was the point there. No, just the person who just the person who sinned against Pharaoh or against Joseph is the one who's going to have to pay that.
Right.
And even though he didn't really do it, he's still having to pay that price. Well, hello, Messiah didn't really do it, but he had to pay that price.
Yeah.
So again, there's Benjamin, in a way, being Messiah, who's calling them to the Father, but then they're really going to Joseph, who's the stand between Pharaoh, that father role.
Right.
You see how, what? Mind blown. Yeah. So again, it's the play with all the different hats with one person. Something else I saw this week that I don't quite know what to do with, but Joseph is given the wife of the priest of On.
Right.
On is considered a sun god.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, Sunday, sun god, Christianity, okay? We kind of fall under that, I mean, okay.
That role.
Yes, we're daughters of the sun god, not really, but in a way, we've taken on that
role.
role.
All come out of.
Right, yeah, oh yeah, good. Okay, so we are daughters of the sun god.
Yeah.
Yes, we've all come out of that, okay? We've come out of and by sun god, I'm talking Sunday. A lot of the things that we see in church, very Babylonian, and they hook with the sun god.
Right.
And so she's the daughter of the priest given to Joseph, yet we see the house of Joseph is still in his private quarters treated very Hebrew. His two sons have Hebraic names. They're not Egyptian names.
Right. And I love it because they didn't leave Egypt. They're still having to live in Egypt.
Yes.
And they're flourishing and being blessed within the system that they're spiritually coming out of.
Right. And she never leaves Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
She never leaves Egypt. Yet she is in Joseph's house who looks Egyptian, right? Even
that makes sense. The suffering servant. We're still in that role.
Right. And I just love the fact that she's the daughter of a priest of On, the sun god.
Yeah.
And yet she's brought out and brought into his house. Well, there's a great example of us. And we have to remember when we get to Revelation, we're going to have that again, that calling out. I would say now we're in that just more and more calling out so that you can come out of her, so you can come into Joseph's house.
Right. Very good. Ooh.
My last thought for this week was, in the dreams, it was 7 years and 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Same, a good and a bad.
Right.
Which made me think, okay, in the end times, the time's supposed to be shortened.
Oh, yeah. So maybe it's just 1 7.
Or maybe it's 3.5 and 3.5.
Ooh.
Because it keeps them on the same
3.5 good, 3.5 bad.
Yes.
Ooh.
Just like here. So I thought maybe the idea of it being shortened is 1 7, but split into 3.5 and 3.5. No idea.
Very
just
nice.
Food
So
for
the
thought.
bookends.
Yes.
You have the bookends of the dreams, and then in the very end, there's no way, since it's global, since it's worldwide, that we would survive.
Correct.
So for the sake of the elect, it's got to be shortened to 3.5, 3.5.
Yeah, wouldn't that be interesting?
Yes, I like it.
Remember, there are multifacets of what the times being shortened in Matthew speaking of. I mean, that could be an aspect of it. It may not. But when we're in it, we'll look back and go, we got
that's
it.
what it meant.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the fun part, right? While there are seriously so many other places we could go this week, I think we'll leave that for your own research.
Yay.
We sure do thank you for joining us, and we hope you have a fabulous week. We will see you on the flip side with Julie and the Prophets. Shalom. Or we could return at least to the years where we used to be 630 days a year. Now we go. 360. We used to. What? How old would we really be? No, okay, sorry. Let's not go there.
Exciting. Exciting and sun. Come aboard. We're expecting you.
The Love Boat.
Wow, it's been a while since I've seen that one.